Content creators love to throw around the term cinematic. In the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about what that term actually means, why it matters to every content creator, including you, no matter what kind of content you make, and why getting cinematic results might look differently than you might expect. Welcome to the Story Greenlight podcast, where we're all about empowering creators like you to tell your stories, connect with your audience, and create the impact that you were put on this planet to make. My name is Jeff Bartsch. I'm a coach, author, and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience shaping content for ABC, NBC, Universal, Disney, Apple, and a whole bunch of others. My team and I support creators with followings in the hundreds to the many millions. At Story Greenlight, we believe that you matter, your message matters, and the world needs to hear what you have to say. So when you go to YouTube and you type in the word cinematic in the search bar, here are the kind of videos that you're going to get. You're going to get titles like how to make your footage more cinematic, how to make your boring footage look epic in all caps, and things like camera angles to enhance your films. So when you're thinking about this word cinematic, what does it actually mean? And just to get things in a super clean example right off the bat, cinematic basically means, for the sake of our conversation, having your content feel like a movie, like a piece of cinema. That's basically what people mean when they are talking about cinematic. They want to give some version of the experience that you feel when you watch a movie. And it's a very powerful, it's a very attractive goal. And I'm going to dig into why in just a second. But before we do, I have a confession to make. I will admit that I have been in a very cynical place with this whole discussion in times past. I'm happy to say that I've been on a mental and emotional journey where I'm no longer sitting in this place of cynicism. But in order for this to make sense, let me just tell you where my headspace was. When I first started on YouTube, I was looking at content creation through my lenses of having been working for major broadcast networks in Los Angeles for almost 20 years at that time. And I was looking at content creation on YouTube and saying, oh, well, all right, cool. This is good. Well, I can do this at the super high level in Hollywood, and I should be able to do this at a super high level automatically on YouTube. And then I discovered that it was a lot harder than one expected. And just because I had the chops, and still do have the chops, to cut things, to edit things at a broadcast level, at a super high-end broadcast level, that doesn't necessarily mean I automatically have the skills to shoot content in a super high-end way than the stuff that I'm used to cutting. And that was a pretty large slice of humble pie. And so as I was figuring this out, I was looking at a lot of other creators on YouTube who were talking about, oh, I want my stuff to be cinematic. And I thought, you know what? Here's where my mind was. A lot of the people who care the most about having their stuff look cinematic are the people who basically haven't lived enough life experience to have anything valuable to say with their content other than, hey, I can make flashy videos. Yes, very cynical, very elitist, very condescending. And frankly, it's that attitude. It's a defense mechanism, because that was a way of me helping myself feel better about the fact that I don't have the skills to be a crazy high-end, do crazy high-end shooting. I've gotten a lot better than I was in the past, but I was seeing all these younger creators saying all this stuff and saying, oh, well, if I can get my stuff to be cinematic, then that's going to be the most amazing thing ever, i.e., I'm going to make dope vids. I'm going to make amazing looking content, and people will think I'm amazing too, and I will feel better about my life. Now, does that train of thought accurately describe some people? Yes, it does. Does it describe everyone? Absolutely not. And again, Again, this is, it took me a while to realize that this is where my head was. And it was a very elitist and condescending place to be. And frankly, it's the kind of attitude that you would get from a lot of Hollywood professionals who roll their eyes at people who dare to attempt doing the things that they do for a living. And, I got sucked into it too. And I've been working to separate myself from that mindset ever since. And as I said, it's also a defense mechanism. I mean, because shooting and editing visually compelling content, that requires a lot of skill and a lot of practice. And if you don't have those skills, you can say, doesn't matter. I don't need that to help yourself feel better. And we make fun of people who obsess over filmmaking gear. This is classic human behavior. We just make fun of the things that we don't have, so we feel better about the fact that we don't have it. The fact of the matter is, every creator should care about the concept of being cinematic, even if the path and results end up different than what you might expect. Here's the thing. Why is it so attractive to so many people to say, I want my stuff to feel cinematic? Well, the idea of having your content feel like a movie, that's a big deal. Movies take us on a journey. They transport us to different times and different worlds, and we discover new things. We are taken on a whole range of different human emotion, and we feel things. Movies make us feel things. And make my stuff feel like a movie, that taps into some core human desires. As human beings, we want to matter, first of all, and we want to be more and experience more than what we currently are. It pretty much, if you're alive and you're breathing, there is something that says, I want to not only survive, I want to thrive, which usually ends up meaning I want things to be more or be better than where I currently am. It's a core human motivation. And this applies to both creators and to our audiences. So within the context of talking about this to the hearts and minds of creators, it applies to our identity. It's an aspirational identity. Cinematic, it talks about upgrading your personal identity from, there are a lot of people out there who, if you tell them, what are you doing out shooting things? And they say, oh, I'm a YouTuber. And people will kind of look down your nose at you. However, if you're going out and you're shooting and people say, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm making a film. And people say, oh, okay, well, you're a filmmaker. That's an upgraded personality. And especially if you're connecting the idea of being a filmmaker and making cinema to the world of high-end professional Hollywood studio stuff, it's connected to fame, money, beautiful people, highly skilled professionals, driving down the street and seeing entire parking lots filled with these huge production vehicles, and just knowing that they're doing a movie shoot right there. There's actually, before we moved out of California, before COVID allowed us to move out of California, I used to walk to the train station pretty regularly, almost every day. And a lot of the time, the place where I would walk to this train station was right next door to this big open bare parking lot, which was right next to a complex that people did a whole bunch of production there, a whole bunch of shooting, outdoor buildings, and did a whole bunch of sets, had a whole bunch of sets there and all that stuff. So I'd walk by this parking lot, and it was obvious any day that they were shooting, because the whole parking lot would be filled with these massive semi-trucks, camera trucks, grip trucks, wardrobe, production vehicles, all, great big lighting cranes, just you name it, it's all there. The idea of being attached to all that, it's pretty heady stuff. It's pretty cool. And it makes total sense for a starry-eyed vlogger to say, I'm a filmmaker, and to shoot for all these things, it's a way to upgrade your own identity, to aspire to being more than what one currently sees, or what some people might look down their nose at you if you say, oh, I'm a YouTuber, as opposed to, oh, I'm a filmmaker. So usually we don't talk about this kind of stuff in the public content here in Story Greenlight, just because a lot of people, it relates more to the idea of mindset. And a lot of people aren't really searching for mindset when it comes to content creation, but it's really, really important. And we dig into this stuff all the time when we're talking in our meetings in the green room. Cinematic talks about an aspirational identity. It also talks about the human's fundamental desire for being more. It's the idea of elevating the everyday into something more enhanced, more stylized, more exciting than everyday life. It says, my life is more than my everyday boring experience. I mean, no matter how crazy or amazing our life is, we, the individual, are the single persons most likely to feel like our lives are boring, simply because it's the only thing that we know, and it's the thing that we are used to being stuck in, so to speak, every day. And so we are all living a story, and we all want something greater than what we currently have. And so we look for ways to improve our lives, and attaching to amazing feeling content is absolutely a way to do that, either as a creator or as the audience. You know, this can show up as a creator saying, I'm elevating my life by creating something in an elevated style. And it can show up as an audience consuming elevated content and enjoying that elevated experience. So for more of this idea of what we want as a character, and that we're living through our own stories, definitely check out episode 7, How to Tell a Story on YouTube, because that will lay out the foundation for all this stuff. But the biggest reason I would say that the idea of cinematic content speaks to core human desires is because it makes the audience feel things. And that right there is the single biggest reason that anyone consumes content of any kind at all. Anyone who consumes content, certainly, let's just keep things simple and talk about YouTube. Anytime someone comes to YouTube, they are either wanting an answer to a question, or they are wanting to shift their emotional state. They are either bored and they want to not be bored, or they want to learn something, or they want to, they just want, they want to laugh. They want to be entertained, or some version of that. Either way, they want the feeling of being changed, of learning something or having experienced something. And that is why anyone consumes content at all. They want answers to their questions, or they want an emotional shift. And even if they say they want the answer to a question, what they really want is the feeling, the satisfaction of having the answer, which helps them solve their problem that they're trying to get answered. So either way, audiences want to feel something. This is why audiences consume content. And this is why I've said for years to my students and clients, anytime I've been talking to them over the years about how to shape content, how to edit television, how to edit anything, it's always been, the core has always been, make me feel something, because that's what your audience wants. We talk about this in detail in the episodes talking about how to give your audience what they want. That's a 2-part episode. I forget which episode numbers they are, but you can check those out in the show notes or the description, depending on where you see this. So these are some of the reasons why the concept of being cinematic with your content, making your stuff feel like a movie, is so powerful, and why it's so deeply rooted in the things that we all want as creators and as audience members and as human beings just in general. So the question is how to achieve How do we get that effect of making people feel something? And I would propose that in order to make that happen most predictably for everyone, including you, we need to change the questions that we're asking. Because if you say, how can I create content that is cinematic? That is a leading question that automatically puts you down a specific road. And you will start learning about things like, okay, you need to get a unique shooting style with different kind of camera angles and different camera movement. You're going to be looking really diving into cinematography and camera support equipment, gimbals, mini cranes, robotic arms, stabilization on different moving vehicles, strapping mini cameras onto random places or animals or whatever. So that's the kind of thing you're going to look at there. You're going to look at unique visual style. You're going to talk about quick-paced editing and visual effects and color grading, which, by the way, everyone likes to throw around the term color grading as if making any change to the lightness or darkness of your shot is a color grade. It's not. The basic elements of adjusting lightness and darkness and contrast, that's actually color correction, and then giving an artistic effect to that. That is what is known as color grading. Random bone that usually sticks in my craw a little bit. Anyway, the other element of cinematic, creating content that's cinematic, you're going to be getting into unique sound style, heavy sound design, and paying a lot of attention to your music and how you shape that and all that kind of stuff. That's all the kind of things and far more. I mean, you want to talk production design, you want to talk about physical effects and digital effects and compositing, all the things. Just it's a whole other world to itself. So if you create content like this, can you create some version of make my stuff feel like a movie? Yes, absolutely, you can. Here's the trade-off. It requires a lot of skills. It takes a lot of knowledge about a lot of things, and it often requires some expensive equipment. Not always, but if you really want your stuff to look, sound, and feel like a movie, a lot of the times you gotta pay for some pricey gear to do that. And you have to have all the skills and knowledge and the gear, and you have to have a lot of time to do it well, because man, oh man, it's one thing to just shoot a clip and drop a clip into an editing timeline, but it's another thing to go and just make that clip turn into a crazy flashy montage. That takes a lot of work, a lot of thought, and it takes far more time to do all this stuff than it does to do things otherwise. The flip side, it is a lot of fun. When everything's working and everything comes together and you're creating this thing, it is a lot of fun. It is so cool. And I will say it can also make you some decent money. If you are in a position where you do have all those skills, you have the practice and the knowledge, you have the gear, and you can actually go out and sell your services to create cinematic content for people who don't, or people or companies who don't have those skills themselves, that can be a really great way to make extra money, or maybe even make a living or build a business for yourself. But here's the best thing that you can do with the word cinematic. Replace the word cinematic with impact. When you ask, how can I create content that has impact? You have something that includes all the options in cinematic, but it lets you get the same results without having to have all those crazy extra skills, and you don't have to take all the time necessarily and have all those extra elements to do it. Now, if you put all those elements together, awesome, all the better. Can flashy visuals and camera angles and sound design and epic music create impact? Yes, it can. Are you required to have flashy visuals and camera angles and epic music and sound design to create impact? No, you're not. In fact, a lot of the times the flashy movie stuff will hurt your content, not help it, depending on what you're creating. So the question becomes, how do you create impact in your content? We create impact by engaging the audience's imagination, by elevating a representation of reality. That right there is a more detailed description of what cinematic does. You're elevating reality. You can create impact by helping people see the world in a different way. That is something that movies are known to do, but usually that happens because of the stories that are told in movies. It happens because of the ideas in the movies, not just because they have imaginative camera angles or crazy visual effects. You can create impact by helping people get what they want. That can be something as simple as answering their question. And you create impact by creating an emotional response, by making people feel something. So if you're thinking, dude, that sounds like some really broad ideas, and how on earth do you walk down that path? You would be right, which is why this is literally everything we talk about here at Story Greenlight. It's everything that we do here is in support of those ideas. Creating connections with your audience, creating impact, helping people feel something, helping people get what they want, spreading those ideas, spreading your messages, and making an impact, making a difference in the world with your content. That's a really big thing to try to bite into, which is why there's episode after episode after episode here talking about exactly that. So literally anyone who creates any kind of content anywhere, anyone uses these ideas to create impact in the hearts and minds of their audience. And so can you, no matter your experience level, no matter what kind of content that you make. Now, if you ever feel like it's easy to get lost trying to figure this out and that there are a lot of moving parts, number one, it's not just you. This happens to everyone. And number two, you're right, there are a lot of moving parts. So if you're looking for guidance on how to make this stuff, make these ideas work for you with your content, then that's what we do in the Green Room, which is our private community here at Story Greenlight. That's all about helping you tell your stories, connect with your audience, and unleash those next levels of impact in your content and in yourself and in your audience, because they're all related. You can get full access to the Green Room for a month for free. You can get started right now at the link in the description below. I'll see you there.